I'm Anne, CEO and founder of Accessible Academics. We are a nonprofit that serves students with disabilities, and we help them transition from high school into post-secondary education or trade school and live independently in the community. We were supposed to do a culinary program that was this spring, but that's being pushed off inevitably thanks to the virus. So we decided to take our culinary program and instead do some life skills and different types of classes online, free to the public, so that everyone can enjoy it. And then this series is done and sponsored by Dark Rose Deli with Zach Rosenbloom, who's the chef, and I'm gonna pass it over to him.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well and safe during this crazy time. In an attempt to make this as normal as possible, I figured since tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo, this would be a perfect time to make something that would honor that. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with what a Mexican torta is. There's actually a ton of different versions of this sandwich. It's a super traditional street food that obviously comes from Mexico. The torta has been done all over the place. It's actually specifically the inspiration was from the French baguette. I'm not sure if anyone else knows any traditional sandwich street food that has made themselves popular based on the French baguette. Possibly if anyone's heard of the banh mi. This would be another one that was super inspirational from the French, as so much of cooking is. So this is something that I personally find to be a great utility sandwich. I'm not sure if anyone's going to do the bread recipe, if anyone's looking to be super ambitious, but it is a relatively simple dish. As far as bread recipes go, I did it yesterday just to make sure that I had worked out all the kinks, and it worked out quite nice. And it's kind of like, it's called a telera bread, which is basically Mexico's version of the baguette. So their goal was to get like a light, fluffy bread with a little crispy crust. So just to give you guys kind of an idea of where I'd like to take this cooking class today, I'm going to kind of go over mise en place, which is another French term, which is, I believe it translates, and Anne, you may correct me on this, putting in place. So that's something that's very popular, like kind of an essential thing as a professional cook, that if you're able to do those kinds of styles in your cooking at home, it'll make you a lot more efficient, quicker, and it just takes a little bit more effort to get your stuff together. So, of course, as a home cook and a professional cook, I understand that being at home, you want to relax and be kind of lazy, but that's also why working on your mise en place is essential, because I can lazily work for about an hour and have all my stuff ready to go and sip on a margarita as well. So I'm going to start by kind of explaining the dough. So I put that recipe on there, but I don't expect that many people to do that right now, as it's about 2 to 3 hours of time to build. So I just wanted to go over a couple things that could mess people up a little bit. So the first thing is in that recipe, it's asking to put your yeast in and have that with water and mix it. I tend to do that in warm water being comfortable for your hand to be under the sink. Now, as a professional cook, my hands tend to handle a little bit more aggressive heat than normal. So I tend to be about body temperature is the safe spot. So if it doesn't burn you and you're saying, okay, this is warm, that means that you have the perfect temperature. So that would be the first start, is you kind of set up your water and your yeast to begin, just to get that thing going. And then the mixing is part of that recipe. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to PM me through Dark Rose Deli, and I'd be happy to find that out. Or for those of you that know me more, you have your ways of getting a hold of me, so I'd be happy to help. One of the things, though, that I always found intimidating as a professional cook was bread. So it was something that I always wanted to work with because great bread is probably one of my favorite things in the world. And so one of the things I want to show you guys is just a little bit of managing that dough. So I'm going to bring over a couple pieces of dough that I have ready to go that had already gone through the first couple steps, basically the mixing, kneading, and into the first resting phase. So now I'm into shaping. So I'll bring these over. So for this Tolera bread, I have 2 pieces, and I have a couple ready to go already, but I'm gonna show you kind of a quick move to get them into a nice round shape and then build from there. So the reason that we're going into the dough first, and here I can adjust that. So the reason we're going into the dough first is because that's gonna be about a 20-minute to 30-minute bake. I already have my oven on at 400, and I really don't feel like wasting time because my wife gets hungry. So to make life simple and make my wife happy, we're gonna make sure to do this as efficiently as possible. So you basically wanna cradle your dough like this. And now, mind you, you should get about 8 portions per recipe. I'm a big guy, so 6 seems to be a little better. And ultimately, if you want to be very specific, then you can weigh those out. If not, totally fine. I just cut these to about the right size. So you do the cradle and you just start rolling it in your hand. So most surfaces would work. Mind you, I do not have any flour down at this. And you just kind of roll it around, and you can go a little bit faster. If it's too big of a piece of dough, you can always go with a smaller size. And you'll notice that it will make itself into a ball. And that's the first step in that dough. I'm left-handed, so I usually tend to do better with my left. So let's see how my right does. Not as good, I can already tell, but let's see what happens here. So, all right. Not as good. So if it's something that you're challenged with a little bit, I'm a professional and mine does not look that great, so I got to switch to my left hand. So if you get really, really good, I've seen multiple people just kind of run with both and kind of do like a double dough, which is something that I'd prefer not to do at the moment, but all right. So decent. At this point, you would go through the next resting phase, but I do want to show with this dough that I'd like it to do some shaping. So for the Tolera bread, what I would like to work is kind of a batard shape, which is a football shape. So that's, you take it in the center and you roll it. And mind you, this thing, we are looking to get it to double in size. So when you're looking at that shape, you want that center to be nice and flat, and it'll just naturally, with your angle, work out to that football shape. I'll show you again on this one. So I have kind of a pyramid set up, and I'm just gonna roll it like I'm playing with Play-Doh. And then put a little more pressure in the center to build that out. And then football shape. So stretch this out because I know it's gonna be big. It's already taut from being set up. So these are gonna be ready to rest. So I already have a few that I have ready to go. So for me, I'm going to put a couple slits into the dough and give them a little bit of an egg wash and then put them into the oven now. So these we'll see kind of just for curiosity's sake what happens to them, but I do have my other ones ready to go. So we'll start over here. Lois, if you want to switch over and camera 2. So those are the other ones I have ready. These, as you can see, have kind of grown in size. They're a little more round. I'm going to put a couple slits which will allow the growth to be a little more controlled. So I'm doing a couple slits right here on the top. That's why you have that famous baguette shape with the slices in. You're basically saying, okay, dough, if you're gonna cut and you're gonna split, where are you gonna split? Now you know exactly where they're going to split. So again, I'm by no means perfect, so neither are my doughs. Absolutely fine, the bread will taste exactly the same. And then I'm going to use a little bit of egg wash. This will just give it a sheen. It's not terribly necessary, but you'll see that they do get like a really nice cover on it. So they'll be nice and shiny, which is something that's beautiful. So just going to get these all in the oven, and then we'll keep going with what we're looking for. Okay, there's a little cute tiny one. All right, and I'm going to pop these in the oven. Okay. All right, so if we want to switch back to the original camera, where do I get those sweatshirts? That is a
It's from mine.
great question. We at this point don't have any available, but I'll see what I can do. I don't know if you saw the back, but also a rose as well. But as we were talking about mise en place, the next step in what we're going to work on today is that's going to take about 20-25 minutes to bake. I would like to do the pickled onions. Now, this is probably one of my favorite recipes of all time because it is super simple and can go with absolutely anything. So if anyone's intimidated by cooking, specifically pickling, this is the go-to of basically making any dish better. So really all you need to do is, I have some julienne onions because I like that shape for this. This goes great in salads. I've put them on hot dogs. They're like really just literally anything. If you were making potato salad, pickled onions goes great in them. And since we're gonna want those to rest in the pickling liquid for about 30-40 minutes minimum, we wanna get that done first. And if you look at that, that is perfect timing for that dough to come out and be ready to go on the sandwich. So right now, I know I have very specific amounts on the recipes, but it's not really necessary. I would just like to give you guys guidelines, as I think as far as most cooking goes, guidelines are going to get you most of the way there. And I'd rather you have an idea and a little bit of extra ingredient before actually doing something, as we all tend to be different. You know, one onion is going to be significantly different in size. If you want to do a different vinegar, that's going to change things. I know, Carly, you have white wine vinegar mix, perfectly fine. You're going to get the exact same result, just a little bit of a different flavor. So basically what I plan on doing is seasoning my liquid with salt, sugar, and a little bit of pepper. And that's pretty much it. That's good enough to get you a base pickle. So yeah, so here, as you can see, I think I put about a cup of red wine vinegar on the recipe, but as you can see, like this is about 1 onion. This is maybe 2/3 of a cup of red wine vinegar. It's fine. It'll do it. A little bit of salt. And this is something where like it goes based on flavor. So what, about a pinch, so maybe a teaspoon of salt. And I tend to like my onions a little bit sweeter, so I'll probably go tablespoon and a half. I don't know if you want to push this down so people can see that. Do you mind grabbing me a spoon? And then I personally like a little bit of cracked pepper. Now, mind you, I've done this with a ton of different variations. If you wanted to, you could easily throw like a little bit of jalapeno in there to get a little bit of heat. And now magically it's stirring and I don't even have to do anything. That's when you know you've achieved, is it just magically does itself. So I can just enjoy my drink now and this will get done.
Television magic.
Yeah, television magic. So since I happen to have this tasting spoon ready and magically available, I'll try this. And it's a little vinegary for my taste. Mind you, I'm at home, so I can keep using the same spoon and no one cares because it's basically me and my wife. But I'm going to add a little more sugar. So basically, when cooking, you actually have three key components to your seasoning: acid, salt, sweet. Obviously, there are other parts to it, but those are the things that kind of adjust and keep you within a realm of good flavor. So you kind of have to play to where you like that spot to be. I tend to like things a little bit saltier and a little bit sweet. Oh yes, the peppermill was a special gift from Jeff Rosenbloom. I'm not sure if he's watching this, but Rosenbloom's farm magical woodworking skills were able to make this fine peppermill with kung fu grip and action. So yes, I've done with honey in this. If you were into like agave, stuff like that, or if you're looking to not do anything sweet at all, completely fine. Just I would suggest diluting your vinegar with a little bit of water so that it's just not as intense of a pop. But if that's what you're going for, that's fine too. The one thing I would suggest is when you're doing pickle, this is a cold pickle. So that means I don't plan on heating this liquid up. So you do want to make sure you're, for the most part, dissolved, so you have an idea of where that pickle is going to be. And you also want to make sure that it's a good candidate vegetable or fruit that you're doing this. Examples would be, of course, pickled onions. And in this instance, I use red onions because they become beautiful with red wine vinegar. The red wine vinegar and the pigment from the onion make it this like magenta color, so it looks really classy. Other things that work really well: cucumbers, melon. If you're looking to make like a watermelon salad, this would be a lovely little rendition instead of going with a vinaigrette. So for this, I'm just going to pour this over. I know there's still a little more. It'll be fine. All the sugar, perfect. It'll be tasty. So I'm going to just put a lid on this. And ultimately, if you just stopped here, tomorrow these would be great pickles. I'm just going to give it a quick mix. And you're not going to see the color change, but do be aware that that salt's going to break down those cell walls, and you're going to see this shrink down, so you'll have coverage completely of that liquid. So we're just going to basically set this aside and move on, and we will not have to worry about this till it's ready to finish off. So the next thing I want to show is making guacamole. I personally think I make the best guacamole, but it's super simple. So for this instance, because I love it, avocados, really important to note when you're grabbing these and looking for a good ripe avocado. You don't want one that you can just completely smush or it's too ripe. You don't want one that is so firm that you can't squeeze it at all. You want something where it's just going to give a little bit, and these should hopefully be all in a decent ripe level for avocado to be used for guacamole. With regards to the mise en place, I'm going to quickly show you. I have jalapeno brunoise, or small diced, ready to go. I have my cilantro rough chopped. Mind you, none of this has to be perfect to make a great guacamole. And if, say, you're very sensitive to jalapeno being hot, you don't have to use that. You can easily omit that. And then a little bit of fine diced as well, red onion. In my opinion, you could easily change out most of those things except for the cilantro, and of course avocado and lime juice. So if you want something a little more gentle temperature-wise with the pepper, you could probably go something like poblano, which it tends to be a little less hot, and that would be okay. Or again, just omit that. Cilantro, I think, is almost essential. Red onion is fine. White onions tend to be a little sweeter. So if you're looking for something that doesn't have as much bite as an onion, as the red onion, that's fine to go. I would be completely happy using white onion as well. So I'm going to show you how I would cut these out.
Hey, Zach, I do have a question now. Any way to ripen an underripe avocado?
Yeah, so the way that we've done it before is to put it in a brown paper bag and let it sit out. Ultimately, it's still a gamble on how long that's going to take. It certainly helps, but I tend to just, especially if you're going home, or I'm sorry, if you're a home cook and you're looking to go to a kitchen, like either, go to a grocery store, just pick an avocado that is going to be ripe and ready for working. Otherwise, you're gambling that it will be ready in time because there's really no perfect way of knowing when that will ripen, even in the bag. So it's kind of a gamble. Not worth it to me. I'd rather just go to the grocery again. So I like to snap with my knife, the butt of the knife, and then pop out the seed. Super easy. If you're a little concerned about safety, you can use the cutting board. Kind of cut around, right through the center, twist, pop the seed out. Same thing. So at this point, there's a couple ways that you can do this, and I'll show you both. For me, because I'm lazy, I will just use the same knife that I'm using and cut my squares into this. Mind you, we're going to be mixing everything together, so it doesn't matter that it's perfect. So I'll do this for these because it's a little bit faster. And of course, if you're not comfortable with a knife, don't take the chance. I'll show you the next one on after this. I've cut myself a billion times, so I'm more than comfortable cutting myself. So you want to grab me a spoon real quick? So basically I just cut a little hash into it and popping these all out. Super easy. Tell that the avocado is nice and ripe. And the other way is to go spoon first, dig your avocado out, and then cut it from there. So if you feel like this is a little bit more your style, perfectly fine. Throw those in, not a problem. I don't like to get my hands dirty, so I tend to stay away from that move. And I have one more half that I'll show you that again. But basically you're just hashing out your avocado, popping it in, and then that same style was again, take your spoon, just a little bit left, dice it up. Look, I tend to roll my knuckles when I'm cutting so that my knife is in contact. It's actually the safest way is to have your hand or your fingers touching your knife. Pop that all in. And then at this point, while we're setting up this avocado, you get into a little bit of a preference. Do you want, if it's someone that really loathes cilantro because of its strong flavor, and you happen to be one of those people that dislikes cilantro, don't put that much in. Not a problem. If you absolutely love cilantro, throw a little bit more in. I know personally for me, something that gets overlooked is the whole plant is perfectly fine to eat. If you We'll actually use a little bit of the stems later when we're making the aioli, but For me, the whole plant is perfectly fine. I actually think the stems hold a lot more flavor than the leaves. So I'm gonna throw in this whole amount of about a loose cup of cilantro in there because I love cilantro. All the jalapeno because again, I love that as well. And the onion, this is probably a little much for me. So I'm just gonna eyeball that. And mind you, we can adjust as we go. I strongly suggest always tasting what you're eating. If it's a little too strong, then you're gonna have some issues. So start a little bit at a time. And probably just switch to the other camera. So the magic is that as you're mixing this, and mind you, my bowl is probably a little bit small here, you're going to naturally smash the avocados off. So at this point, I'm just kind of looking to see where my mix is. I think I'm pretty solid there. So now I'm going to add lime juice. I love lime juice. So I'm probably going to add maybe 1.5, 2 limes in here. So, and ultimately, you get lucky sometimes with limes and you have a great one that's going to squeeze a ton of juice. Sometimes you don't. I know there's a couple techniques for using the microwave your citrus a little bit and you can get a little more juice out. I tend not to use that because I don't really, it actually changes the flavor a little bit. You end up getting like a little bit of a sweeter from that juice cooking. But it's fine if that's your style and that's where you want to go and you need a little more. Adding a little bit of salt. And then I personally think the secret to a great guacamole is a little bit of cumin. So I actually have it in mortar and pestle. I think that it's one of the few spices that I don't think is necessary to toast. I find that it gets a little astringent when you toast it. So I like to keep that solid. So we'll just kind of mix that up. Now for me, I also love that like you can put tomatoes in here. I find that I like that beautiful green color. So this is pretty much where I'm at, and I'm usually pretty happy with that. You get a little bit from the red onion, but at this point we can try it. So I'd say it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. I'd say it's solid, actually. So guacamole is done. Perfect. We have one step of our sandwich ready to go. So we're gonna put that aside. And we're gonna move on to another step. So onions are pickling, guacamole is being set. I just wanna check on the bread, make sure we're good on that, see that it's doing some beautiful things. I don't know if you wanna get a quick video with your phone or just move that. They're not quite there, but you can see they're ballooning up pretty aggressively. So I'm pretty happy with that spot there. I think we're actually in a really good spot. So the next thing I'd like to go over is making mayonnaise or aioli. Now this is something that I think is it's a relatively simple technique that most people are a little intimidated about doing at home. So I figured we could go over that and build hopefully something that everyone will do. Now, mind you, the recipe I posted is something that is done by hand with a whisk. This is a different variation, and it tends to be a lot easier if you have a Cuisinart food processor. Also, a blender will work as well. So I'm just going to show you real quick. I had 1 head of garlic that I roasted a little bit ahead. I actually sauteed this, but same thing. It would be so pint of, this is an olive oil blend, so it actually has a few different types of oil in it. You could do it with actually any kind of fat you want. We've done it with just straight olive oil, which I would make sure you're doing a really nice cold pressed olive oil. Cold pressed, make sure that you have less bitter notes. So you can do it that way, and that would tend to be considered more of an aioli if you're just doing garlic and olive oil. For mayonnaise, you're usually looking at something like canola oil, which is also fine. This is a blend, so we get a little more flavor. This I cooked in with the garlic, so this is basically now garlic oil, which if you were looking to do any cooking at home, this is something that you could make. Just put a little bit on this on some toast and do like a toasted garlic bread, and that would be great. You could use this in sauteing things and adding a little bit of garlic flavor. This is actually a utility item to keep around in the house. It's just going to be great. So for the aioli or mayonnaise, whichever you want to call it at this point, because we're kind of doing a mix, I put this in the refrigerator. The colder it is, the more likely it's going to hold. I should be pretty safe making and not having any issues, but if it breaks, it breaks. I've definitely broken many sauces before. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind trading over to here, I'm gonna kind of show that. So, all right, beautiful, I see. So for this, I have my Cuisinart, and basically what you're doing with a mayonnaise or an aioli is you're making an emulsion. So I'm throwing in my solids and my acid first with my emulsifier. So in this instance, I'm using raw egg yolk. Now, I know some people will be against that. That's fine. They do sell pasteurized egg yolk. If you're trying to stay and you're a little concerned, not a big deal. In this instance, if you saw, I threw a little bit of some cilantro scrap in this. So we're basically going to make a cilantro lime aioli, so that you can kind of see that there are a ton of variations. So I'm going to start by throwing a little bit of my lime juice in there. Okay. It's one of those things that I'm sure there's some very specific ratio, but anyone that has memorized the proper ratio of acid to oil and egg yolk emulsification is much better than I am, so we'll just stick with this. I'm going to estimate at about that, and mind you, you can adjust accordingly once it started to emulsify. So to start, you can see that I've thrown just my base stuff and my acid together, so my emulsifier and my acid, and I'm just going to turn that on, get it going. So the really important thing with making an aioli is that you want to stream your oil in slowly so that it has a chance to work. So I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm just going to slowly stream my oil in as I get squirted a little bit in the face with it. So we'll let that kind of do its job for a second. Now, one thing that's very important with making mayonnaise and aioli is you want to make sure that you're controlling the temperature. Now, that is easier said than done, and something that's easier to do with if you're doing it by hand. That's actually why I prefer this over a mixer, is because a mixer tends to be a much higher heat where this is spread out a little better. So you tend to be able to hold it a little better. I can actually see, and I'll show you this real quick, it's starting to thicken, which is perfect. Now this is where I'm kind of at that point where I know I've kind of built it up. I can go into a little bit of a faster on the emulsification. So I'm going to stream a little bit faster and say a little prayer and make sure that the gods do not spite me here. So we'll stop and let it catch up. Still looks solid. For just a minute. And now we pray. Needs just a second longer. And success. We have officially made mayonnaise. So if you want to switch that back in. All right, so with this, I'm just going to grab a small bowl so I can put it in there and show you all. At this point, I'm going to, if you want to see that, you can see it is pretty solid. I almost spilled it on Lois' computer. She would have loved that. So I'm going to pour this into a bowl. It's nice and thick. And then at this point, I will try it. It is the most paramount thing is making sure that you take advantage of tasting everything. If you want something to be good, taste it a billion times. So I can already smell the roasted garlic, so I know that's a success. I can see the nice amount of cilantro bits in there. So my guess is I should be pretty close to done. Maybe a little more lime juice and definitely some salt because I have not added that in yet. Would you agree with that? Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to estimate and go, you know what? Pinch of salt. That's fine. Okay. Maybe 2 pinches of salt. The roasted garlic is for sure strong. Mm-hmm. So here we go. Now, lemon juice would be fine if you were getting a little crazy. You could probably use something like grapefruit, orange. All of those would be absolutely fine in making this. It's not like lime juice is by any means the specific. So, see, we've officially made aioli, mayonnaise, whatever you want to call it. So, at this point, we have now officially made the onions, the guacamole, and the aioli. So now, as we were scheduled, let's check the bread and see if it's ready. As you can see, it looks pretty good. I'd be pretty happy with that. We'll taste it and see where it goes, but we're gonna rest it for a minute and kind of get set up for building the sandwiches. So we'll let these cool down, and I'll kind of go over what I plan on doing with the sandwich. And while that cools, this is a great opportunity to ask me a couple questions. If anyone has anything specific they want to try and see if that would work, I'd be happy to give a little advice. Let me know. So real quick, for me, I'll show you what my sandwich is, and for those that are cooking, let me hear what your sandwiches are. And again, please feel free to ask me questions. So
for any also for any newcomers, because some people came in late, in between when Zach is cooking, please feel free to use the chat to post questions. That when I reach out to Zach when I see a question get posted. For those of you who are cooking with us, or if you have any questions right now, please let us know.
So real quick, this is like just a base recipe to give you guys some inspiration to do your own sandwiches. For me, my wife loves Mexican food, so I'm pretty sure she's chomping at the bit at this point, especially because I know when she ate lunch and she's probably pretty close to hangry, but we'll see. So
some gummies.
Onions, again, those can be held for a while. I'll show you. I happen to have, and I understand that I'm probably one of the few crazy people that will do this, so bear with me. I made a little chorizo that I have kept in. This is a Mexican chorizo, so it's basically just like a ground meat with some spices. If anyone's really hardcore and is looking for a recipe, message me and I can probably get you this one. It's really nice. It is in kitchen standards, so I think it's like a 36x batch or something, so it'll make you like 10 gallons. So please don't make that much because it's ridiculous, but that's fine. We're gonna do, of course, the pickled onions, the aioli, the chorizo, guacamole. I did a little bit of chopped lettuce and tomatoes. Just did some sliced tomatoes, nothing crazy. And then what I'm actually the most excited about is I got a little bit of jalapeno jack, which is just pepper jack with jalapenos. So just nice. Thought it was good. So yeah, that's basically my sandwich. I'm gonna build it. Yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking. Carter loves the guac. Nice, that's solid. Always good to have a fan. Is this his first experience with homemade guac, or have you shared some guac with him? No, I don't know what that means. Is that a yes or?
That means, of course, he's had homemade guac before.
Oh, I thought you were saying like no, absolutely, he's never had homemade guac. But is this the number one guac? I bet it's the number one guac. All right, so let's see. Yeah, that's awesome. Let us know how they go. And again, I'm more than happy, especially now we have a little bit more time on our hands. So I can certainly reply if you have any questions when you have your son make some of these things, or if you're making them with him. Awesome. So basically, Carter can then have walk with me and then Pokemon with Lois. So that'll be perfect. All right, so I'm gonna cut into a couple of these loaves and kind of build the sandwich. But that's pretty much what I have. It's about an hour, a little early for an hour. So yeah, let's leave this time and I'll cut this up and you guys can kind of see what the bread looks like. It's really a nice recipe. I've actually been pretty pleased with how it's been. Mind you, there's a little bit of avocado still on the cutting board.
Oh no, avocado on my sandwich.
I would say that looks pretty good. It's got a nice sponge. I think we're gonna have a nice little sandwich here. So for me, I'm probably gonna throw a little bit of cheese on the top of these and bake them just to get a little nice extra melt on that. Thank you. It's, again, this is a super easy recipe. I like 3 hours for this. And of course, it's not going to be anything like crazy like doing like a sourdough recipe, but as far as starter bread goes, it has come out really, really nice for me. So I've actually been pleasantly surprised at how this has gone. It's nothing crazy, but if you're a little intimidated by bread, I think this is a good one to start with because it'll give you a little more a good start for success. So I'm just gonna toast these in the oven that I still have hot with my cheese on there. Take some more questions, but we're pretty much done, and Lois and I will probably enjoy these sandwiches and drink some more margaritas outside because it looks kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're heavily intoxicated, the temperatures are fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, if anyone has any other questions, that's pretty much all I have for you. Please like, share. I think Anne has actually recorded this. Anne, is that?
Yeah. So this has been recorded. So in case you came in late, I have to figure out how we're going to post it. If we're just going to put a link on YouTube and then link it to our websites or something. We'll figure it out, and we can send you anyone's attended an email with the link to the video. Jeff says our aioli is too thin. Any suggestions?
Is it look like it's emulsified? Like, does it look like homogeneous? One no.
So
you can show us if you would like.
You want to show me a picture real quick?
Or I can just put it through Zoom. I can ask him to start his video.
Yeah, if you don't mind showing me, I can probably help you out. Did you use what did you use to emulsify?
A fresh egg.
Yeah, farm fresh.
And So it wasn't cold,
Yeah,
and the olive oil wasn't cold either.
it's okay. It's not essential. It just helps. So we're
It's
using a
just-
blender or food
The food
processor?
processor.
Okay. Can I see it?
You can.
Did you use a
Wait.
whole egg or just the egg yolk?
Just the egg yolk.
Okay, perfect. It's a very nice shoulder, very manly.
Can you see it?
Yeah. So let me actually click closer. Can I like?
Anne has to make it.
And do you mind making that the main? Because this is probably something useful to everyone.
There.
So definitely looks broken. So what I would do is take that out and put it into a separate bowl.
Okay. And start
So-
over.
Ish. So you don't have to start over because it's still very useful. So basically what you're going to do, and if you want to just stick with them and we can actually work through this and see if we have success, you guys get to be our guinea pigs.
Woohoo!
So get another egg yolk and put it in the food processor.
Got one.
Okay, so crack that yolk into the food processor.
Well, put it separate so it's on the other shell.
Yeah. Do you mind actually going on the food processor? I love your very beautiful man chest, but I'd like to see if we can get some. All right, so you got your egg. All the rest of no, I want the egg yolk by itself. So all the stuff that's in that bowl needs to be in a separate bowl because you're going to stream it into your egg yolk.
All right, here, Linda.
Well, my hands are all yucky.
All right, I'm putting you down.
Okay, I'm coming back.
All right, perfect. So basically, this is something that I've done 1,000 times. So this is
Do I
a
need to wash the bowl?
Does he need to wash the bowl out at all?
no. So start that bowl with just the egg yolk in it.
Even though it's got some of the residue from the fit stuff?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, we
Do
need
you
to
want to switch your camera so it's on him doing this? You can change the rotation too, so that you can hold it still. But
All right, so now we need an egg yolk, Linda.
Okay, well, it
I
was
don't know
still,
if we have enough eggs in this house.
Jeff, the egg yolk is still in here.
that's a beautiful bread.
But it's not broken.
Let me just get
No, already got it.
Perfect.
Okay, it's in there.
Want to pull the?
Okay, now you hold it.
You hold it.
Now, Jeff, I can't because I want
Okay.
All right. So now get the top on and start mixing just the egg yolk. So you just have the egg yolk on. I'm full. Like, don't pulse it. You want it whole.
Yep. On low or high?
Low's fine.
Right here, Linda.
Can you show the bowl and not your faces, please? Okay, so now take what you had broken and stream that in.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Take the broken that you have and slowly stream that into it. So very slowly. So
Slowly
that basically
stream it in.
re-emulsifying.
Oh,
Very slowly.
Yes, there's Carly's private messaged me if it was safe to answer your question, but I feel like this is actually a very useful move. So
We try to assist.
okay, so are you streaming it slowly?
Yeah.
Okay, is it starting to thicken?
Does it? Well, you know what? Shut it off and let's take the lid off.
it looks thicker than the than before.
Okay, perfect. Can I see a picture of it? I know you love showing your faces. Beautiful.
No, your mom's holding the phone and
I know. So now you're on the right step.
here, look.
Nice. So now go back to your oil. And now you
Okay.
should be able to stream your oil into this.
Okay.
And then you have now officially fixed your oil.
Thank you very much for your assistance.
Yep. So I don't know if anyone else is hopefully that helps a lot if people are troubleshooting, but just with
wouldn't have it all,
couple
but-
fixes, it's really easy to adjust. You just kind of have to set that up correctly.
So does that cover everything? Or any other questions?
Yep. If there's anything else, let me know.
All right. Well, I'm going to put in Dark Rose Deli's website. That is the company that Zach started with other chef friends. Oh, Jeff said that it actually worked. So well done. We had an emergency session for the aioli, and it seemed to have worked.
Yeah.
Carly, so there's a question.
Christy, do you have a question?
Did I miss the question?
While I give you a minute or so, I just want to make sure everyone makes note. Accessible Academics is doing some really awesome stuff. So please donate to Accessible Academics to keep them kind of doing what they're doing. And if you like these videos, then I would be more than happy to keep going on them as well. So we can kind of keep going as we go. Yeah. So that's a really great question. So for me, if you were looking for basically anything will work with this, I just want to give you a couple ideas. So even if you were looking for something like grilled chicken, that would be great. If you're looking to like marinate that, I can kind of give you some suggestions that route. Can you have this like not on my, yeah. Ground beef, if you were like making taco meat, that would work amazingly with this. If you wanted to go vegetarian, you could do something like braised black beans, or even like refried beans would be wonderful. If you're really feeling like you just kind of wanted a sandwich, turkey, bacon, avocado is awesome with aioli, so like that would be great. It's really kind of the sky's the limit. I know Carly was joking with me earlier that she had all she had was tofu, and really that would work fine. I would say maybe marinated in a little bit of cilantro, lime, maybe even like a splash of soy sauce, and sear it and get a little bit of crispiness, and that would be really good on the sandwich. So it's kind of the whatever your imagination takes you. Yeah. So I pulled the sandwich out so I can finish building that. So bread's a little toasted. I got my nice melted cheese because, really melted cheese. So just gonna throw for me because I like tomatoes. I'm gonna throw it on the computer.
Please don't.
A little bit of tomato.
Don't tomato my computer.
I want to tomato your computer. A little bit of aioli. Guacamole on the bottom. And some chorizo and lettuce, and we will basically have
Sandwich.
a Mexican torta. Oh, I have lettuce too, so.
And the onions.
Oh yeah, that's right. We have really good pickled onions that I almost forgot. That would be awkward. So again, if you'll see these pickled onions now, as I had said, they're gonna get really beautiful tomorrow, so make sure to save them. And those things will last probably about a week or two with being nice. These will be a little raw, but some raw onion on the sandwich will actually be really nice. So take that, smush it together.
Messy.
It's a really messy sandwich, but all things that are messy are delicious. So there it is.
If you make this recipe, we would love it if you would tag us on Facebook and us at Dark Rose Deli. So the tag on Facebook and Instagram is at Dark Rose Deli, and then at Accessible Academics. I'm throwing that in the chat just so we can see the great recipes, the great end products that Zach has taken the time to teach you. We'd love to see that. And I'm also like to share with you guys our Eventbrite page. On here, we have a lot of other free classes that we're hosting with Accessible Academics. On Wednesday morning, we have free yoga with a yoga instructor, Molly, and that's on 9:30 on Wednesdays. We have chair yoga tomorrow at 11 a.m. And we have other types of cooking and baking classes. So we're baking scones together on Wednesday at 11. And we also have different series on self-care and helping our 2020 graduates. So we have also how to cook veggie burgers coming up. So if you are interested in these different classes, please check out that link and see all of our offerings. Trying to stay social while social distancing.
Yeah, and if there's anything that you think would be something you would like to learn, I know for me personally, I'm so far from kind of what people really want to figure out at this point that I'd be more than happy to make any specific classes that people would want that could go with this. So if there's something that people are like, I really wish I could figure out how to make like dressings, I would be more than happy to show you that. So just let me know and I can happily do that. Now I'm just going to make a sandwich for my wife and that's all I have. French omelet.
I mean, that's a technique.
Yeah, maybe breakfast will be the next one, Anne.
Yeah, we could do breakfast. So if there are no other questions, our session is over. We'll stick around for the next 5 minutes-ish in case there are any other questions. But we will stop the recording here. And then if you have additional questions, feel free to post. Otherwise, have a wonderful night.
Awesome. Yep. Have a good night. Stay safe. And if you make the sandwich, please enjoy and let us know what your thoughts are.